appreciate the wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I am so happy to be here with you today. Thank you all for joining us with this Navigating Business Transitions workshop. Like Gabrielle mentioned, my name is Adela, and I'm thrilled to be facilitating this session and to present this workshop that I put together for you all. Before we dive into the workshop, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for each of you for taking the time out of your busy day to dedicate to your business. I know that it's not an easy thing to do, and I also want to applaud that effort to take control of your business and whatever transitions you might be coming across at this time. Your presence and your commitment to your personal and professional development is deeply inspiring. It is what keeps me motivated in my work. And I would like to extend a special thank you to MCSC for their continued support in organizing events such as this one and being so dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs like yourselves today. We are so grateful for their ongoing commitment to help business owners thrive. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Oops, not quite yet. Sorry about that. Okay. Challenging transitions, tools for business owners to handle difficult times. I want to say welcome again. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to Mission Community Services Corporation. Let's talk a little bit. I'm sorry, one second. Let's talk a little bit about today's purpose and objectives. We are here today to give you the tools to effectively navigate the challenges of business transitions. We want to equip you with the practical tools and strategies that will help you be an active participant in these transitions and to help you foster a positive mindset. Let's be honest here. Your business is an extension of you. It is an expression of you. And just like you, it is going to be confronted with changes and situations internal to the business and perhaps outside of it that will cause it to change at times. Sometimes these transitions are unexpected, sometimes they are unwanted, but with the right tools and sometimes the right mindset, we can begin to find the opportunities for growth and expansion in those transitions, rather than allowing them to be something that we feel we're only reacting to. So what is a business transition? Given that it is a natural expression of yourself, we might say that if a business is alive, it is going to be undergoing some form of a transition. So as much a natural part of life, as much as transition is a natural part of life, so it is a natural part of the life of a business. And so is fear. Being afraid of a transition or a change that our business is coming across is completely natural. And I want to make sure that we accept that. What we can do, though, is acknowledge and accept the transition that is coming up. Transitions in business can look like market fluctuations, changes in the industry, shifts in customer demands, or even personal circumstance changes. Most or all of you have certainly seen changes in your business pre and post-COVID. Here in California's Central Coast, we've been dealing with a different weather pattern for going on 6 months at this point that has been affecting businesses across multiple industries in a number of ways. Transitions are inevitable, and the sooner that we accept that, the better equipped we'll be to make the most of them. But how do we know that we are facing a transition? Sometimes that is completely obvious. We can choose to expand, for example, our family, or we can choose to expand our business, right? We can offer a new product or a new service. Or we can experience a loss, damage to our equipment, a personal injury. We might lose an employee who has carried a lot of responsibility and knowledge. But sometimes the transitions are a little bit less obvious. Maybe a supplier begins to cancel or delay more than is normal. Sales for a popular item maybe suddenly stop, or our website begins to see less traffic, and there isn't a clear answer or reason why this is happening. The transition can be obvious and sudden, or it can be gradual. But either way, it is recommended that we accept and embrace that a transition is happening. It doesn't mean we have to like it, particularly if it's something negative or something that feels negative. But what we want to do is try to be a little bit more flexible in our mindset so that we're not trying to force things to stay the same. Sometimes that's the natural reaction that we have as business owners. We begin to see, for example, if it is suddenly drop in a particular product, we might try to focus on maybe increasing the sales for that particular product and bringing them back up to what they used to be. And perhaps it would be better, we would be better served to take a step back and embrace the transition as a whole. Because ultimately, when we are trying to keep the situation the same, we are trying to keep ourselves as business owners the same as well. But navigating the transition is going to require you to transition along with your business. So you're going to want to listen to those whispered changes before they become shouts of change. They are much more gentler and easier to deal with that way. So from the step of acceptance, we can move into being active directors of this process and eventually appreciating the opportunity for growth that all transitions bring. And I want to take a moment here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment and turn my video back on. Now that we have a few more participants here, I just wanted to see if anybody wanted to take a moment to say hello and perhaps introduce their business. Not sure if I've met any of you before. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and let us know what type of business you're in and how we can find you, go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself and let me know. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll start sharing my screen again and move on with the presentation. But I did want to let you know if at any moment anything in particular sticks out to you, or you might want a expanded explanation, or you'd like to know how it can apply to your particular circumstance, please feel free to raise your hand. You can unmute yourself and say, excuse me, I'm happy to pause and acknowledge your question. Okay, so I want to share with you a success story of what a transition can look like and what I'm referring to when I talk about the potential for growth that comes with business transitions. Let's talk about Narasina Couture. So I'm going to try sharing this page again that you might have seen a little bit earlier. Now, Narasina Couture is a high quality luxury. Is a high quality fashion designer that specializes in luxury items, including dresses for special occasions, jumpsuits like the ones you're seeing on your screen. And this is it's owned by a woman named Janine Narasina, who has been in, who has been in business for several years. Now, Janine has seen a lot of success throughout the years of her business with things like partnerships. Partnerships with different designers. She has been featured in The Knot, on Oprah, She has seen celebrities such as Gabri Sidibe in this image wearing her dress. And her custom gowns, they come at a very high price point and they are extremely high quality. So they require her, not only her designing expertise, but her hands-on participation in actually manufacturing the dresses and being involved in every step of the selection of the fabrics, the actual making of the gown, the tailoring, etc. Like many business owners in 2020, the owner of this business began seeing a lot of changes or hiccups, if you will, to things like suppliers or particular fabrics not being available. And as the year went on, she also began to experience personal changes, which were going to require her to begin traveling a lot more than she was used to. So this meant that she wasn't going to be able to be available to be directly hands-on with the creation of each particular gown, as was her business model, right? Now, this was something that was very important to her, and it is something that she had, that had been part of the way that her business was designed from the offset. Excuse me. The other shift that began to happen was that there was a lot of interest in the public towards fast fashion or items that, items that are made a little bit more quickly. So with this, even though there was a desire to maintain that business model of the production of a particular gown for a particular client at a high price point that required her constant supervision from the first moment that she made contact with the client until the dress was fully completed, Janine went ahead and understood that she was facing a transition in her business, and it wasn't easy at every moment. She liked having that type of control. She liked overseeing the quality, and she liked the pace of the work and the way that that model worked. In order to adjust to these changes, she began to address some of her own resistance to some of the changes that were occurring, and to ask herself if these were changes that could be that were negotiable or were not negotiable, right? And in order to assess that, she began to meet with others in her industry who were further along in business than she was. She met with her business coach, and in some ways she returned to the drawing board, right? And she identified the things that were very important to her. One of them obviously was continuing to be creative and design and have the opportunity to produce these beautiful gowns and make them available to her clients. There were ideas presented to her to do things like sell additional merchandise to go with her dresses. So for example, to sell accessories, accessories, jewelries, things like that, to partner with other distributors or stores who had bigger audiences that might attract clients to her, to offer luxury experiences, and to offer gown rentals. And quite honestly, those weren't very appealing to her at the offset, because there was that initial resistance to any change, to the change of the business model. And as we had mentioned, it was very important to her to work very closely with each of her clients and to offer them this experience through this particular gown, right? So something that was immediately off the table was the offering of accessories or jewelry. It was simply something that she was not interested in, even though there was research that showed that her clients might respond very favorably to this. I think a very good lesson here is that this is something that she was not invested in personally. So even if the market is showing that it might perform very well, it certainly isn't going to if the business owner is not going to get behind it, right? So she held firm against the idea of offering accessories or jewelry, but she went all in with other ideas that might have scared her, but that she saw opportunities to expand herself and meet the vision she's always had for her company, which is to bring high quality, visually stunning, empowering gowns for special occasions to plus size women. So first, she promoted among her inner circle of stylists and private clients these additional services that she was going to be offering. For example, she went ahead with the gown rentals, and now customers didn't have to make that investment in a particular gown at the same high price point, but they would still have the opportunity to wear one of her custom-made, high quality, incredibly unique and appealing pieces when they had a special event to attend. She went ahead with her fiance and began and developed a luxury experience. So even if somebody doesn't have somewhere special to go, they have the opportunity to come to her, wear one of her gowns, be styled, and have a collection of images taken of them. That was another one that she accepted. And she also went ahead and partnered with Dia & Co. and began offering her gowns through that website. Even though this transition included some discomfort for her because it did require that growth, in the end, it caused both her and her business to expand. And I think one of the highlights of her expanding her business in this way is that it has allowed her to bring to market some of her designs much more quickly. So for example, when we were looking at her website, we saw a number of jumpsuits and a number of feather dresses in different colors. Having this different number of services has kind of unleashed her creative juices in some ways, and she's able to act on them more quickly and bring them to the clients more quickly. And she's also seen the highest revenue she's ever had in her business. So I shared this story to give you some insight into some of the challenges, the personal challenges that come with a business transition, but also some of the rewards that we can find when we go ahead, when we embrace the transition, and also embrace that we ourselves as business owners are going to transition along in this process. So I wanted to pause for a moment and ask if we could perhaps talk about some of the strengths that we see in the example that I just gave with Narasina Couture. Was there anything in particular about the story that stood out to anybody that you might want to comment on? I think that some things that I noticed about this particular entrepreneur that really helped her be successful in this transition was an attitude of adaptability. Even though we didn't begin there, we definitely got there. And Janine was able to adapt to the needs of her customers, to the change in the economy, and to the fact that things were changing, right? There was a little bit of resistance at one point in terms of not wanting the business model to change, but there was adaptability, and that was a huge part. That was a huge part of what led to a successful transition. Of course, something that really stands out is her creativity and talent, right? That is one of the strengths of her business, is she herself being the creative force behind it. There is acceptance, right? There was a point where it was definitely just recognized that trends were changing, her business was changing, and rather than continuing to try to force things to stay the same, she accepted that they were going to change. There was leveraging her relationships. I may not have touched on it as much as I meant to, but I did want to highlight that one of the first relaunches, let's say, or launches of these new services was through her personal connections. And we all have unique relationships or unique experiences that we can leverage. And then there was a solid understanding of her strengths, of her personal growth, and of something that just wasn't right for her. So for example, despite receiving a lot of pressure from her business coach and from others in her industry about offering accessories and jewelry, that is something she stood very firmly against, that has served her well, because she is not putting her energy somewhere that she knows she's never eventually going to get behind. Okay, and thank you, Ariana. I see here it says, you know, her willingness to change and adapt seems super helpful, and I agree. And hello, Janine. Thank you for your comment. I'm sure you're busy, but Janine did pop in today for this presentation, and so just wanted to say hi to her. So I'm gonna move on with the presentation. I'll stop my video. So what does this mean for us as business owners, right? Is anybody familiar or have any idea where this next screen is going to be taking us? These 4 little puzzle pieces? How about this? Has anybody seen this before? No. Okay. So this is, no either, Lily. I see. Okay. So this chart is usually referred to as a SWOT, not like SWAT like police, but SWOT as in strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's a tool that, yes, SWOT analysis, correct, Marianne? It's a tool that we can use in business and in other areas to analyze, to see where we are and develop a strategy from there. So we're going to go through a business. This is a fictional business, ALC Landscaping, and we're going to take a look at an overview of the company and the transitions that they are facing. Okay. Now, ALC Landscaping, this fictional company, is a family business that has been in business for at least 10 years, and it is currently being managed and operated only by the son. Besides the son, the business has 1 full-time employee and anywhere from 3 to 15 contractors on any given day. In addition to performing the actual landscaping work, the son manages all administrative, financial, and marketing aspects of the business. So as you can imagine, he's stretched pretty thin. For the last 3 years, the son has been focused quietly on gaining more commercial and new development accounts. When he inherited the business from his father, the business was mostly focused on residential landscaping, or, you know, a gardener that goes and cleans up somebody's front yard and backyard. And the son has been focused on getting bigger accounts, you know, to make that short. It's important to know that the son does not have a landscaping contractor's license. And the transition that we are looking at right now is that the founder of this company, the father, was recently diagnosed with cancer and was rushed to emergency surgery last night. Now, this is a fictional company, but I do want to say that it is a real scenario that a client of mine was presented with. So with that in mind, I know that a lot of you are responding in chat, and that's perfectly fine. Could we perhaps talk about what some of the strengths are of this company that you can imagine based on this overview? What might be a strength of ALC Landscaping?
Hi.
Hi.
Strengths is the fact that the son is not actually going out there and performing everything. So he has the ability to step away and take care of the personal matters. And instead he has the contractors available to him so that things can continue to run as smooth as possible.
Exactly, yes. So he has a solid pool of contractors to come in and pick up the work. That's a great point. Any other strengths?
That he's, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you can go ahead, Janine.
This is Marianne.
Oh, I'm sorry.
one of the strengths would be that they've been in business for 10 years. So they've been known in the community for that length, of period of time.
Right, correct, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say that they always have a goal of growing, that they are just always working towards that goal and they don't seem to be like having an end date for their clients.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great point. They do have a growth mindset, and we can see that here with the son wanting to gain more commercial accounts, right? Accounts that will bring in higher revenue. I'll be honest, you all have come up with some strengths that we hadn't come up with yet together. What about threats? I'm sorry, what about weaknesses in the business? What is a weakness that you see that this business might have?
I would say that they don't have a contractor's license.
Right, okay.
And the yeah, that's all.
I would say that the father, who has been known to be the main member of the business owner, or is the owner, is sick, and that could potentially pass away, and who's gonna be the face of the business?
So weakness is that a lot of the business's reputation and just operation lies with one person.
Correct.
Yes, yes. And what about an opportunity? Where is an opportunity that maybe stood out to you that I didn't highlight or that you might see for this business?
To me, and that the son could actually get his license, and since he has that growth mindset, could bring this business into a whole different level.
Absolutely. Anybody else as far as opportunity? Okay, and what about threats? What is a threat to the business? And let me know if you need clarification on that question.
I would say if the father and son don't particularly agree, I think that just a family business, emotions and personal relationships can be hard running a business together.
That's a really good point.
I see that the threat is that there's only one full-time employee, and if that one full-time employee gets pulled by someone else, then who's going to help him in the office and running the business?
Right, right. These are all, for each of the four categories, these are all really, really solid points. So these are some of the responses that we came up with this client in terms of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And a lot of them are what we mentioned here. And then you as a group brought forward some that we didn't recognize before, right? We recognize the strong customer relationships, the skilled team, and the 10 years of experience, right? And 10 years of experience, that's actually 10 years in business. If you combine the amount of years of experience of people who are landscapers at this company, then you're looking at 30 plus, right? The weaknesses, some of it is that, landscaping work is seasonal by nature. And the other weakness is that there is a limited marketing team because going to the third point, a lot of the administration depends only on the son, right? The opportunities that we see, you all brought up getting the contractor's license. There's also the partnerships. Now, the son has already had some success in developing relationships with builders and commercial properties. So it looks like some of the opportunities are in maximizing those partnerships and in offering expanded services that would come along with having that contractor's license, which would allow for services at a higher price point, for example, in redesign of the landscaping rather than just maintenance and maybe following instruction given by the customer. And then the threats, yes, it's definitely that there is the dependence on the father and the son. So that relies on both of them being well and okay, and them both getting along. There is the dependence on that one employee, right? And then there's also competition. Landscapers are often very vulnerable to vandalism and theft of their materials, of course, to being injured on the job. and then to economic downturns, particularly if most of their business comes from individual homes, right? Because one of the first things that families do when they're cutting costs is taking a look at what they can do themselves instead of paying for. So people figure, well, I can mow my own lawn. So at this point, while most of their customer base is residential, then these are some of the threats that this company was facing. So we're going to pause here to look at the understanding transition portion of it before we look at some of the solutions or strategies that ALC Landscaping could implement. And what we want to do is understand the specific transition that you are facing or anticipating. And I think something that really helps with that is to give a specific statement. So for example, for ALC Landscaping, I am experiencing a family emergency that will require me to be away from my business, right? A lot of times putting that statement out there is the door that we need to open to begin to unpack and organize what this change is going to look like. Then the second one is, how will the transition affect your business? Obviously, we don't have that complete answer up front, but in this case, at the very least, we can see that all of the work will fall on my one employee while I am away, with the typo. No one will follow up on my leads, right? Because he is actively pursuing new customers. It might be too much work for the crew without me, meaning without his supervision. And there will be no one to actually manage the business while he is attending to his father's emergency. Then we can think about what can be controlled about the situation. Communication is one of the very first things that we can control when there is an immediate transition that is a difficult one. So he can communicate with his employee, with his customers about the emergency. When his dad is well, he can have a conversation with him about some of the necessary adjustments. And he can take a look at bringing some of the contractors on as employees, perhaps as on a probationary basis. And if the moment will allow, is to take a look at what opportunities do you see in this transition? For example, this can be an opportunity for him to become more hands-off and transition to managing the business rather than doing so much of the labor, right? To focus on the growth of the business instead of on performing the everyday work of the business. And it's an opportunity to focus on bigger accounts and to finally perhaps, dedicate the time to securing his contractor's license, which has always been a goal. So if there is a transition that you are facing right now in your business or in your personal life that is affecting your business, I'd like you to think about, or invite you to think about, what the internal factors are that are affecting your transition. See, with ALC Landscaping, because it had been inherited from his father, the son felt a lot of responsibility to maintain these residential accounts. They are accounts that his dad had been serving for years, and in some way, turning towards commercial accounts and new construction accounts began to feel in some way like a rejection of what his father had built. And it was important to really take a look at that internal factor, because in some ways it was preventing the son from taking some of the steps that he needed to take, or even making the decisions that he needed to make, right? In the case of Narasina Couture, one of the big internal factors was the desire to be there step by step with the customer and with the gown, right? Each gown was incredibly important to her, and each customer's experience was incredibly important to her. And there was an internal factor that made her feel that if she shifted that, then she wouldn't be able to deliver on that promise, and she wouldn't be able to give the customer that same experience, right? And that just, in her case, that just wasn't true, right? It turned out that there were many ways to give the customer that experience, and different ways for her to become a different type of CEO, where she managed the quality in different ways. And in this case, it may be a matter of the son and the father accepting that this business is going to transition as the son becomes more responsible for it, right? And it's a decision he's going to need to make. So I bring this up because a lot of times we take a look at our business transitions and forget that it's our personal, perhaps, beliefs or feelings that are driving our actions and our decisions towards the transition, right? Or our response towards the transition. So given what we talked about, do you all have any ideas that you'd like to share before I share our own about what strategies they might be able to implement to deal with this transition? So these are the strategies that we came up with. One was to sit down and identify the managerial, and by this I mean administrative and marketing needs of the business, and to have a conversation with the full-time employee about workload and availability. It was very important that we got very clear about what that one employee could do, how much they were available, and for the son to have in mind what this list of needs for the business was. Then it was to identify the three strongest contractors and make them an offer of employment with a 3-month probationary period. And we included the probationary period because there was a huge transition in the family taking place at this time. And, you know, from that perspective, it wasn't the best time for him to commit to an employee, since he wasn't going to be able to fully assess, evaluate, perhaps even, you know, train the employee as well as he would like. So it was good to give him a little bit of room to figure out if this was the right fit for him. Then there was identifying the lowest profit margin private clients or residential clients and releasing them to focus on commercial accounts. There were some residential customers that had to be let go so that their capacity could increase for the commercial account opportunities that they had. Once this happened, it was very quick when some of the network that they had already built began giving them more commercial accounts. They had simply been under the impression that ALC Landscaping was at its max in terms of capacity. We also hired freelance marketing assistants to draft emails to community partners about the commercial expansion. So this was somebody that came on about 2 to 5 hours per week to just help stay in touch with the community and reach out to realtors, builders, and distribute some marketing materials for commercial office space, and then begin the contractor training. Now, I want to take a moment to recognize that for both Naracina Couture and ALC Landscaping, both businesses knew very well who their ideal customer was. And it didn't change when this transition happened, right? Even though ALC Landscaping was focusing on a different type of customer, they had already kind of familiarized themselves with that customer. It may be that in your case, the transition is going to bring you a new ideal customer. So if that is the case, it's important to take time to get to know this new customer. And some questions that I invite you to ask, if that is the case, is what is the problem in your client's life that your product or service solves? How does your product or service solve it? What is a primal desire that your product or service satisfies? And I know this question sounds a little funny, but it's really important to answer, because we are so driven as consumers by feelings, by wanting to feel things like safe, excited, motivated, accepted, confident, right? So even though, for example, in Naracina Couture's case, right, she solves the problem of making a beautiful and event-specific gown for a plus-size woman, right, who's going to be going to a very special event. But the primal desire underneath that is of wanting to feel accepted, confident, beautiful in the clothing that you're wearing. And it's really important to have an answer for what is that primal desire that your product or service satisfies. And then the last thing, we can get more, obviously this can be a much more deep questionnaire, but these are some preliminary questions. Is how would a client find you? I invite my clients to imagine their client making a purchase or their customer making a purchase and then walking backwards from there. We want to find out how they found you. Is it through referrals? Is it through ads? Is it through driving by? Is it because they saw somebody wearing or using what you offer and they wanted to ask about it, right? So I just wanted to acknowledge that sometimes the change in the business does mean also a change in the customer. For any transition, I want to remind you to seek professional guidance and support. Mission Community Services Corporation is here to help you. Reach out, send them an email, give them a call, and ask to speak to a business consultant. It's never too soon to a sudden transition to ask for guidance, even just to have somebody listen and understand your problem can help bring a different perspective that helps get things moving along. Speak to others in your industry who are farther along in business than you. Sometimes this feels uncomfortable because we see other people in our same industry as competition. But as much as we can, we need to release that thought. Nobody is you. You are the force behind your business. You can sell the same thing that 1,000 people sell in your neighborhood, but there is something special about you and the way that you do things. And it's okay to be open to learning from other people who have found success in the same area or industry that you are in. So as much as you can nurture those relationships and find trusted people in your industry, I highly recommend. I've always found that to be a very rewarding experience. And yes, search for freelance experts. So if you are not good on project management, marketing, communication, etc., search through places like Fiverr and Upwork and be very specific in your description. Say, I am looking for somebody to help manage X project. I am looking to launch a campaign for this product. I am looking to redesign my website or restructure my social media. Sometimes as business owners, we don't invest in the support because we think that the commitment is going to be too big or it's going to be financially too large or too long of a commitment. But these type of sites and this marketplace where people really can showcase their skills, you find a happy medium for the support that you need. So I really encourage you to consider those tools as well. And be flexible. Understanding that there's going to be a change in your business or accepting that a transition is happening often feels like you are letting go of the dream or the goal that you had. And that is not the case. Be flexible in the way that you get to where you want to go. That is that the journey might look a little different. The timeline might be a little different. There may be different stops along the way, but you're still headed to where you want to be. And the more flexible and adaptable we are, the more we can begin to learn from our transitions and the more we can maximize the opportunity for growth within them. I wanted to give a few moments to ask if any of our participants wanted to discuss any transitions that their business is facing in this moment and see if we might be able to give some feedback or perspective on it. Does anybody have a situation that they are dealing with that they'd like to discuss?
I'll share mine. My name is Fia, and what I'm doing is, or I guess the transition is, I've been flipping furniture for profit just locally. And I'm at the point where I am turning this into an actual legitimate business, and it's become kind of not difficult. Maybe it's just part of the challenge, but there's not really a blueprint for me, I feel, because it's a very niche audience that I'm looking out for or trying to reach. from selling locally to actually becoming a legitimate business.
Okay. Can you remind me of your name, please?
Sure, Fabiola.
Fabiola. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear it the first time. Congratulations on seeing so much success as a freelancer to now, be motivated and encouraged to cause it to expand. Can I
Thank you.
ask you, you're welcome. Can I ask you what you mean by a legitimate business? So what does it look like? Are you going to be selling online, in person? What do you mean by that?
So online. So I have just been, selling for cash. So just, repainting furniture, redoing furniture, completely stripping it down and selling it for cash locally. So I've gotten to the point where my skills have grown a lot, and I really want to kind of tend to my personal expression and my artistic abilities. So I want to, or the plan is to sell online and to sell nationally. And one of the difficulties that I'm facing with that is the shipping aspect of it, because I'm working on furniture. So obviously this is dozens of pounds, if not hundreds of pounds per piece. So yeah, I know I'm putting a lot out there. There's a lot jumping around in my mind. So yeah, that's the legitimate. So actually having a business license, which I have acquired, the permits locally, to be able to properly advertise and get, shipping discounts and be able to comfortably market myself without having the fear of, hey, you don't have a business license, or you're not permitted, or, all that red tape.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I applaud you for tending to that, because that type of fear does, often hold us back from maybe putting ourselves out there. Janine is leaving some suggestions for you in the chat. I don't know if you're able to see them or not, or I can read them to you. So one that she suggested was to find a way to automate. I'm not sure there if she's talking about the shipping or the correspondence with the customer. Maybe she can elaborate on that a little bit. She also says she loves your business and is suggesting as Facebook Marketplace is a perfect place to sell. Are you selling on Facebook Marketplace already?
Sorry about that. I didn't unmute myself. Yeah. I'm on Facebook Marketplace. The challenge that I've seen on Facebook Market is, I'm not sure that if it's specific to my area. I'm in Bakersfield, and like I mentioned, the style of the furniture that I'm putting out is for a very niche market. And I'm not really getting the engagement in my area that I would like. I'm getting a lot of very low offers on items. So that's why I want to expand to larger cities. To LA would be the first one that I'd want to really hit.
I just want to make sure that I stay aware of the time, Fabiola, and definitely just thank you for sharing this and congratulate you. Can you tell me, you said it's for a very niche market. What can you describe the furniture?
Yeah, it's like a dark luxury.
Okay. And how can we find you? What is your Facebook page name, or I don't know if you have a website yet?
I'm working on the website, but it's Revamped Home on social media.
Revamped Home. Is that just one word?
Yes.
Okay. So, and are you a client of MCSC?
I am.
Okay. So, I think the first step, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you took it, which is to stay in touch with them and definitely speak to a business consultant there. Just given the amount of responses here, Janine just left another one for you. I would encourage you to get to know other people who are further along in their sales journey. Because I just want to note how generous and how quickly some opportunities and answers are coming in for that, right? Even though I don't have time to sit with you right now and kind of come up with a plan. Does that make sense? I do want to encourage you. She's asking here, selling them at markets like the Fairfax one, like maybe traveling to the LA area where you will find more people with the budget and the interest for a very specific type of restored furniture.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of great feedback. I really appreciate it.
Bill, well, I want to say you're welcome, but it's from Janine, so yeah. Yeah, so definitely want to encourage you there. You know, you probably have a business advisor that you're working with already at MCSC. I will leave my email address at the end if there's any questions I can answer for you. I think we might, you know, that's something that I think goes through Gabby, if I'm not mistaken. But thank you so much for bringing that forward. And I definitely would take a look at just a couple of these ideas that Janine is putting in the chat. And the other thing that I would suggest is to dedicate some time. I think I heard a baby in the background too. So I just want to acknowledge that I can see that you're really busy and I can hear your enthusiasm and your excitement in your voice. But maybe if you can dedicate even like an hour to a week to studying some other really niche furniture curators, right? Take a look at their websites, take a look at their social media, take a look at who's responding to them. Because it seems like answering who your ideal customer is something that would be really helpful to you, right? Because right now you're thinking about a website, you're going on Facebook Marketplace, and it's like you're kind of presenting things to the masses, right? And there might be lots of people, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would be interested in your product, but right now it seems like all the energy that you have, you want to direct it towards the customers that are a good match for you. That means that they are ready to pay what you need to charge, that they are interested in the product that you sell, and that it is what they've been looking for. Because believe me, just as you are looking for them, they are looking for you right now. You know, there is somebody endlessly searching online for a table or a dresser or a headboard or something that you've come up with. Does that make sense? And I think that what we need to get clear on is, where are they looking? How can I find them? How can I make it easier for them to find me? Rather than just kind of putting it out there for everyone to see, because it may, for example, I may see it on Facebook Marketplace and it may not be my style, but it may be that it in a different website, in a different type of forum, or advertised differently, a particular keyword. It is, I've heard it said, and I don't have right now the statistic, or I'm sorry, the research to back it up. I don't have the article, but I've heard it said that 80% of our business comes from 20% of our customers. That means that the overwhelming majority of your customers are going to be people that stay with you, are really invested in what you do, and are a really good match for you. And very few people are going to be the ones that every now and then, for example, get one really special piece of furniture, right?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for your time. I went off on a tangent, but I appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate your participation. The other suggestion Janine has on here is to find a successful business on IG that has your same niche, and go through their comments and followers and engage with those followers.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Janine.
Yeah. Okay. We're a little bit over time, so I'm just going to leave you. I was going to do something a little different, but I just wanted to leave you with a thought. I know we've been talking a lot today about difficult transitions, adjusting to the unexpected, resisting the expected, right? And I wanted to remind you or let you know that there are studies that show that it takes an emotion 90 seconds to pass through us, right? A lot of times it's our emotions why we are not making a particular decision or taking a particular action, right? And we saw that demonstrated with some of our examples today. So when you find yourself being faced with a transition and you have feelings of either anxiety, dread, guilt, fear, that for whatever reason you might notice are preventing you from making a decision, try your best to sit with them and imagine them ahead of you. Imagine them either written down or kind of just floating in front of you if you're a visual person. If not, you can actually write them down. And even though it feels really uncomfortable, try to let yourself fully feel them so that they can finish that 90-second process of going through, and then you can continue on with your strategies, with the planning part of it, the uncovering part of it, maybe do the SWOT analysis. And I brought up the SWOT analysis for you just to let you know how easy it is. Whenever you're feeling a little bit stuck, just draw a little chart and write some of those down. Getting a little bit of clarity can really help us feel empowered sometimes. And with that, I say thank you. Thank you so much for your patience with my technical difficulties, which I'm sure you were able to see early in the presentation. Please stay in touch with Gabrielle Saunders at MCSC. I've left her email on the screen for you. Remember that your business and you will thrive if you're both able to be flexible.